The voice is dropping in between. Subrat, is it better now? Just check once more. I think from my side, things should be good to go. I'm just checking the connection. The Wi-Fi connection is fine. All right, everyone. I think we are good to go. We'll start off with our session for today, and meanwhile, others will be joining in. I hope the voice is fine now. Also, the screen should be visible. Uh, I think we'll get started. Good evening once again. And over here, we're getting started off with our live session two on the topic of marketing, web, and social media analytics. Before this, we had two sessions. One was actually related to briefing on the simulation part. And the first one is where we had a deep dive into the marketing fundamentals, analytics fundamentals, and something which will form the foundations for this particular uh, let's say entire module itself. So that is where we kind of had uh, a discussion on the various types of analytics from broader perspective. You guys also participated in a group exercise where we looked at the telecom industry, and this is something which is where we try to align on the concepts that we will take it forward. So let's first of all kind of let me just quickly brief you about what you can expect from our session today. Broadly, the discussion will be centered around customer behavior analytics. We divided the entire funnel based on the customer journey last time, and in that session one itself, we looked at customer behavior analytics, product and price analytics, and beyond that, let's say when we look at the awareness and consideration part of the journey itself, this is where we looked at another part of the analytics. So over here we are picking one at a time. And in our session today, we'll kind of deep dive into the customer behavior analytics part. At any point of time, if you guys have any questions, queries, clarifications, please feel free to put them in the chat. You can also talk about it. I think you guys have the voice access. So you just speak about your questions and anything that you would want to add from your experience, you're most welcome to do. Okay. So over here, we are in our module 2 as per the asynchronous content. So the session today is kind of mapped to the consumer behavior analytics part uh, from your upgrade platform. This is what you can refer to. With respect to our live session, this will be followed by one session which is happening tomorrow. So tomorrow we have a session about product feature analytics, or let's say from the 4P parts itself, you have product feature analytics and the optimizations related to it. I think Sachin has just joined in. Hi, Sachin. Good evening. I hope you are able to hear me clearly. Welcome in.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Okay, great. So, Sachin, we are just starting off. We were taking a quick review of our course outline, and then we will discuss about what we had from the review perspective of session one, and then we take it forward towards the session two part. Okay. So, in our session today, first we will kind of quickly recap about the concepts that we discussed in our session number one. Uh, Apart from this, we then deep dive towards the key concepts, which is where I've broken it down into three parts broadly. So we look at what are the data points that we should study in order to understand about customer behavior. Uh, we look at some of the important metrics which are derived out of these data points. These are certain matrices that you will find maybe in your company where you're working or the industry where you're working. You will find some of these metrics are already being used. Then we'll also look at the concept of segmentation. In fact, we'll have a live demo on the segmentation part. We will see how in real life, maybe machine learning algorithms, big data tools, and so on and so forth, or maybe using very simple Excel files itself, you can segment your entire customer base and learn and take defined actions, or let's say segmented actions, from the perspective of gaining value out of these customers. Okay. So this is where we look at the segmentation concept as well as a live demo to understand more about it. And then we'll also kind of look at the lifetime value prediction, how important the customer base is, how different customers are differently important, and so on and so forth. We'll also look at the aspects of churn prediction, how churn matters, what are the various ways in which we can capture churn, how different companies or industries are doing it, how we can kind of use certain techniques to predict churn and take or create churn strategies. Okay. So over here, let's first get back and discuss about a quick recap of session one so that all of us are on the same page. In our session one, actually, we looked at the concepts which are fundamental to marketing analytics. So this is where you guys started off with defining a definition of marketing itself, which is meeting needs profitably. So this is what we want to do ultimately as a marketer. And especially if we kind of look at this definition, we want to meet the needs of masses in a profitable way. That is what collectively as a group we concluded in our session number one. And if we are able to do this in our industry, company, even startups, or in a large organization, then this is where we will be creating a sustainable marketing effort. So that is our whole prerogative. And in order to achieve this, we need to look at the analytics side. So how will we capture the data? For this, we referred to one of the very frequently used models, which is called as IDA model. And the concept of IDA model is that in any case of any product or a service that we want to sell in the market, the customer basically goes through this journey. First of all, awareness should happen. We should be able to get attention from the prospects in order to finally make them as customers. Maybe when we get the attention of people, not everyone would be interested. So maybe some people would like our website, app, products, and services. Then there will be a desire based on whatever offering that we are creating. Some people might end up taking action and buying the product and services. In fact, after that, also the actions may continue. For example, people might refer their friends, family members, relatives to buy our products. They might also make repeat purchases, and so on and so forth. There are various things which is where a customer can be beneficial for us. So we have to take the target audience through this journey, ensure that maximum people are converting, uh, and those people are converting which have a lifetime value, which is the concept that we will anyways discuss. Now, in order to look at the data that we will capture through this journey of the customer, we extrapolated this journey into these three sections, which we mapped to the customer journey overall. Okay, so these were the stages. First, people get aware. Then some people might consider visiting, let's say, the website, app, or our retail stores. Out of this, some people might purchase. After purchase, there might be a requirement of service. And if people are happy with the product and service, then they might become loyal. come back and again and buy things, refer others for purchasing from us, and so on and so forth. So the way we are going about our sessions is, in this journey, the data that we will capture will be in three areas: customer analytics, which we are discussing today. So customer behavior related analytics is what we'll start off with. In our session tomorrow, 10:30 a.m., I think the session is. So there we will look at product and pricing related analytics. And in our next session, the session in the next weekend, this is where we look at the campaign analytics part. Okay, so we are proceeding from down the funnel to top of the funnel. And once we are discussed with all the three types of analytics, you will find that there are certain tools which can help you to monitor all the data points from one place itself. For example, Adobe Analytics gives you, let's say, a platform through which you can monitor, let's say, the entire funnel at one place. Google Analytics also, up till some extent, we can do that, or we can have a combination of tools. Okay, so that is what we will kind of also keep discussing from the tools perspective, how we will capture the data. Apart from this, we looked at, let's say, once we have captured the data, how would we make use of it? Okay, so this is where we define uh, along these three different, let's say, sections of marketing analytics: customer, product pricing, and campaign. We define the method called as MDM, which is metrics, data, and methods. So for each type of analytics, we will look at what data is available. Can we define certain matrices? Can there be a method to interpret these matrices and data? And using that, can we take certain actions? Okay. So for example, under customer analytics, today we will look at RFM segmentation. We'll discuss about what is the concept, how it is done. We'll have a live demo. Then lifetime value of the customers and churn modeling. These are the three methods for which first we will look at the data and the metrics, and then we'll go to the concepts. If you remember in the exercise that we did from the telecom industry, where you had a group exercise, we talked about descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive analytics. Now, this is where descriptive analytics was just describing the situation. Okay, so for example, in case of Jio, when Jio entered telecom market in India, from then on, if you look at the next 3 years, we can look at descriptive analytics to tell that the business has grown, the customer base has grown by this much, revenue has grown in this region, and so on and so forth. This is like describing the situation. Diagnostic analytics will explain why it has happened. Okay? So the why part of the analytics might be about maybe the geo products, packs, offers, uh, marketing strategy, and so on and so forth. Predictive analytics is going to forecast what might happen. Okay, so based on this 3 years of experience, what Geo might have it in their business in the near term, in the longer term. On the basis of this forecast, we can also look at prescriptive analytics, which is the recommendations that the business should be operating with based on the analytics that we have captured in the first three steps. Okay, so this is what we had discussed in our session number one, along with the last piece, which is what are the different types of data which is generally captured. So we looked at customer data. We are trying to understand the customer more, generally the demographic data. Then every company will have their own internal marketing data, financial and non-financial, like revenue, profits, market share, across products, across geographies. These days, we also look at social media data to capture what is the sentiment of people towards our products, brands, and so on and so forth. Macro environmental data is more about the economy, how Indian economy is doing, how, let's say, the automotive industry within the economy is doing, and so on and so forth. Brand equity data is also an important part, which is about, is our brand value growing or not? Based on whatever efforts we are making, is the awareness increasing? Are more people aware about our brand? Are people able to recognize our brand? Uh, are people able to recall as well or not? Okay, so this is where we ended our session number one. And in our session today, we'll take it forward from here itself and look at how customer behavior analytics will be important. For that, we will first look at what are the data points? Okay, what are the data points and related metrics which industry is looking at? And at any point of time, if you guys have any questions or if you want to add something from your side, do let me know. Okay. So first of all, I have a question for all of you, and don't worry about being right or wrong. You can mention your response in the chat, or you can talk about it. You have to tell me, is customer and consumer different or same? Okay, so just repeat the question.
Yeah.
You would have heard both the words customer and consumer. Are they different or are they same? Okay, Subrat is saying they're different.
Different.
Okay, so there are two people who are saying different. Okay, anyone else? All right, so I think majority is saying that customer and consumer is different. Sachin is also saying it's different. Can there be any situation where customer and consumer is same? Can there be any situation? Okay, Subramanya is saying yes, there can be a situation. So can you talk about it? Subrat is also saying okay. So then again, so people are saying customer and consumer are different, but in some situations they can be the same. Okay. So over here, our conclusion is that customer and consumer, it depends for which product, which industry are we talking about. Okay, so it depends on the offering. There are certain products where customer and consumer is the same. There are certain products where customer and consumer are different. Okay. Uh, Now, what is the fundamental difference between customer and consumer? If we are talking about products where there is a difference, what will be the basic, uh, let's say, differentiating factor? You can write in the chat or you can talk about it. So what is the difference? Okay, customer is the one who buys the product or service. Okay, fantastic. So Subrat has mentioned that customer is the person who's actually going to buy the product, and consumer would be like Subramanya mentioned that they are going to consume it. Okay. Now, then my question to all of you is, suppose you are the marketer. Okay. And let me give you the product as well. Look at this piece. So I'm sure that over here you know all these brands: Bonvita, Horlicks, and Complan. Okay. So my question to you guys is: suppose you're working for an example like Bonvita, Horlicks, or Complan, and you're supposed to create marketing ads for this. Then in this case, will you target the customer or will you target the consumer? Okay, so one person is saying consumer, two people are saying we will target consumer. Okay, so I'll repeat the question. If you're running the ads for Bonvita, Horlicks, or Complan, would you target the parent who's buying the product, so they're the customer, or would you target your ads to kids? Kids are actually the consumers. Okay, so most of the people are saying we will target children. All right. Can you recall? Okay, Subrat is saying maybe customer. Okay, so over here now we have two different opinions. One person is saying we will target the parent. One person is saying we will target the child. So have you seen the ads from Bonvita, Horlicks, or Complan? What is happening in these ads in India? What are they doing to tackle this problem of should we target customers, should we target consumers, parents, or children? So what are advertisers doing in this case? Have you noticed? Okay, so over here, when you next time see the ads for either of these three companies, you will find that in order to solve for this problem where customer and consumer is different, uh, you will find in the ads both the parent and the children are present. Okay, and the storyline of the ad is kind of related to let's say including both of them. Okay, yeah, like Sachin mentioned, we should target both of them. So therefore, have you seen that ad from I think Horlicks, uh, where the mother is running with the child? They both the mother gives her child, I think it is from Horlicks or Complan. They give the child Horlicks, and then both are runners. Yeah. Yeah, Complan girl as well, by the way, is a good example. So you will find that what these brands have done in this case is then whenever customer and consumer is different, you involve both of them and then create your ad story so that there is no confusion as such. Now, this can vary from brand to brand also. Some people might still just target the customer. Most of the time, we target the customer because ultimately they are buying the products. Okay. But there can be a lot of influence which might come from consumers. So, therefore, we look at both customers and consumers. And this is a question which is where even the data collection is something where this question arises. Okay, so when you're actually doing market research or you're using marketing analytic tools, uh, you will find that consumer data is difficult to find. Okay, let's say in case of US market or in India as well, it will be very difficult to find the data of kids or children. I mean, there might be privacy concerns as well, and so on and so forth. Okay. So customer data is something which is widely available. Most of the marketing analytics effort and marketing campaign efforts are centered and based on this customer data. When you want to do or find out consumer data, most of the time we will be doing primary research. Okay, we will go into the market, interact with consumers, and or maybe observe consumers, and that is how we get to know about them. But customer data is a lot existing through digital means and the non-digital means as well. For example, these are the four different types of data generally which we try to capture about the customers. Who are these people? Okay, so identity in terms of, let's say, age, gender, location, other demographic parameters, and so on and so forth. Now, what are these people doing or what are these people purchasing, for example? This can be quantitative data. How many products, how many times in a year, in a month, what is the usage, how much they use. So all that kind of data about the customer is basically the quantitative data. Descriptive data will be about why people are buying a particular product. Okay. Why from online? Why from offline? Why with discount? Why not without discount? Okay, so those reasons is where we have descriptive data. And how are people uh, using the product or reacting to the campaigns, reacting to the product usage, and so on and so forth. That becomes our attitudinal data. Okay, so these four areas is something where we try to understand about customers. Now, there might be certain tools which will help us to capture all the data points, or we might use a set of tools to understand all these data points. Okay, but broadly, these are the four questions. Who are these people? What are they doing? Why are they doing what they're doing? And how are they doing that? Okay. Now, in order to look at these data points, what industry also does is we define certain metrics and we capture these metrics on the business side to understand and make decisions for the business. So what we will do is we'll also look at a few matrices which are created to understand and segment customers. Okay, so first metrics over here, which all of you will be aware about, is customer acquisition cost. Okay, now this is a very important thing because ultimately, from let's say if you have started a business, maybe a startup, small business, or a large business, uh, everything depends on how easily we are able to acquire customers. If the customer acquisition cost is low, then maybe my business model is doing quite great. Maybe we have a very attractive product offering and so on and so forth. So over here, first of all, customer acquisition cost will be calculated very simply by looking at the total expense to attract, engage, and convert a new customer. Okay, that means to take the customer through the entire IDA journey, the money that we need on campaigns, on resources, tools, everything put together is basically our total expense divided by the number of new customers acquired in a time period. That becomes our CAC or customer acquisition cost. And this is a very simple metric which can give a lot of information about, is one company better than other company in the industry? Is the marketing team doing a really great job, or sales team is doing better, and so on and so forth. So there are various questions which can be triggered or understood based on CAC. In case of customer acquisition cost, also what happens is we include the cost of both the effort, sales and marketing. So the overall cost that the company is spending per customer, this is basically our customer acquisition cost. Now, over here, uh, a very good way of looking at the CAC would be about the business model itself. Okay? So if cost to acquire a customer, let's say CAC, is very high as compared to the monetization that we are having from the customer. Okay. Now, monetization means, and by the way, LTV means lifetime value. So over a period of the lifetime of the customer, the entire money that we can get from the customer, if this is lower than CAC, then we have a out of balance business model. And can you guys think of any examples from the Indian market where CAC was very high and therefore the company actually perished? Okay. Maybe from startups, you might find some examples. Very high customer acquisition cost, business model was questionable, and therefore the startup was not able to scale itself. Okay. Monetization was not happening. Any company, in fact, there are recent examples as well in education domain where the CAC is too high, a lot of spending being done. Yeah, Byju's, right? So Byju's, the problem is the level of monetization that they needed is something which is out of balance. They're doing a lot of spending on CAC and LTV didn't happen. Similarly, White Hat Junior, do you guys remember about White Hat Junior? So there also the same problem occurred. Apart from this, Paytm at one point of time before they started their lending business and the other businesses when they were relying only on payments, this is where they also faced a lot of out of balance business model. Now I think they're better off. Might get profitable also in next 1.5 to 2 years. Uh, Zomato is another one. Nykaa has done, by the way, a great job. Their LTV is slightly more than the CAC. So let's see how these things evolve. Now, the interesting thing also is the CAC is dynamic. It's not that uh, we have created a cost of customer acquisition and that will always remain the same. That is not happening. It's a dynamic marketplace with high competition, various overheads. CAC might also be changing for the company. Now, therefore, if you also look at from industry to industry, and suppose let's say you want to start your own business, then this is where also CAC comes into picture, and you can try to select those industries where the CAC is lower, uh, and maybe this is where you can have a slightly less risky business. Businesses all carry risks, but comparatively, let's say from the point of view of customer acquisition cost, if you want to get into telecom industry in India or or technology, let's say IT particularly, or banking and insurance, real estate, this is where the CAC is very high. Cost of acquiring your customers is quite high, especially in B2B businesses over here. So over here, you will find it quite difficult to enter the industry, whereas travel industry or retail, which is where competition is intense, but the CAC is low. So you can at least start your business easily. So again, CAC is also used for this industry comparison, and you can look at these industries in a global context, in a domestic context, or in different countries. It can be studied, uh, and we can probably have a broad understanding of how CAC is varying or positioned in our industry itself. Now, apart from this, another area where customer acquisition cost, particularly for one single company, will be very important is which channel should I, use to reach out to my customers? So we will use generally those channels where the CAC is the lowest. Okay. Now over here, if you look at let's say this chart, you will find that in case of SEO and content marketing, most of the people are saying that the customer acquisition costs are lower. Now, this makes sense, right? Because maybe in case of SEO and content marketing, the money that we will need will be to create content. Then after that, search engine optimization is a free of cost exercise. Okay, so search engine optimization, email marketing, and referral across the industries, generally these channels are found to be the cheapest one or the most efficient one. So if you are able to crack, suppose we are creating a business only on the basis of digital marketing, then inside digital, the focus should be to crack SEO, email marketing, and referral campaigns. Generally, social media, paid search, and social media ads, they come towards the later part of the funnel. And generally, through this, we will try to push the customers. But if you try to just rely on social media advertising, the customer acquisition cost will be generally higher. This is what we also experienced. I was working in the fintech startups, and we used to kind of run advertising on search engines, Google particularly. Along with that, social media. So we ran ads on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. All the in all these places over a period of 1 year, what we realized was that probably Facebook was cheaper among the social media, but the quality of leads was not that great. The best conversions came from email marketing in our case, along with SEO. So that is how in real life also CAC can help you to establish which channels are better off. Uh, these customer acquisition cost is, apart from this, also looked at from the e-commerce industry, particularly for category and competition benchmarking. For example, if you look at Amazon as a business, when you go to their website, you will find there are various categories like furniture, electronics. So what Amazon does is they create a lot of category manager roles, and then for your category, you're responsible for uh, profitability, and therefore you look at customer acquisition cost. So whichever category is where CAC is the lowest and the revenue is high, that means it's a profitable category. So Amazon would want to look at, or any e-commerce company would want to look at, which is the most profitable category, where the CAC is the lowest. Okay. Now it can also be, let's say, from a player in the industry. We can also look at it other way. For example, Mintra might want to understand, on an average, what is the customer acquisition cost for Flipkart? Similarly for Amazon. Is there very huge difference between Mintra and Flipkart? Then probably Mintra would want to look at that, maybe on our marketing, we need to optimize. Okay. Similarly, Amazon might look at understanding, particularly from Flipkart, what is their average customer acquisition cost. Now, these can be very powerful data points to understand and then strategize against competition. Uh, of course, if we look at a quick summary of, let's say, why would you want to achieve a low customer acquisition cost? Because then if you save money, you'll have improved efficiency in your overall processes, business model. Therefore, it will sustain in the long term. Whatever money we save, we can use it to do further campaigns. So this will help us to increase our brand presence, help us maybe to crack more market share. And of course, this is all leading to higher profitability. So that is one important metric, CAC itself, which is an important customer acquisition or customer behavior analytics metric. Now, a food for thought that I have kept for you guys is, can you tell me, in the world today, let's say if you look at India as a market, can we have zero cost of customer acquisition? Is it possible that any brand or company works with zero cost of customer acquisition? Is it possible? Can you create a business like this? Okay, Subrat is saying yes, if there is a monopoly. Okay, very nice. So have um if you have a product which nobody else is providing, then in that particular part, of course, you can have zero CAC. Okay, for example, railways. So railways, there are certain companies, though nowadays there is competition. But have you heard about this company called as Philips Carbon Black, PCBL, Philips Carbon Black? They provide the pigment for the tire industry, the black pigment. PCBL is the only listed Philips Carbon Black. It is from Aditya Birla Group. So Aditya Birla Philips Carbon Black is one company which is where 95% of the market, or slightly more than that, is there with them. Okay. Similarly, Xerox is a good example. Xerox is a major monopoly. If you look at even search engines, then Google also dominates quite heavily over there. Okay, so there can be scenarios where probably you can have a zero cost of customer acquisition, though not many industry or most industries will not have such opportunity. You might also want to look at Amul India. So Amul as well, from the point of view of digital marketing, they don't do advertisements. Okay, they do develop a lot of content, so that will go into the cost, but they have very low cost of customer acquisition, especially from a B2C market perspective. Okay, so why I also mentioned about this question is because in our case, when we were working on FinTalks, uh, for making people participate in our stock market workshops and mutual fund workshops and so on and so forth, for the first 1.5 year, actually, we didn't do any advertising. And if I look at last 4 years, the only money that we have spent on advertising is 4,000 rupees. Okay. So that means, though it's not zero cost of customer acquisition, but very, very minimal cost of customer acquisition organically from SEO, search engines, and free of cost email marketing, uh, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, free of cost event creation. This is what we used to keep our cost of customer acquisition very low. Apart from that, we relied on referral. Subrat is also saying, is CAC is high for B2B marketing or B2C marketing? Yeah. So over here, CAC is generally higher for B2B marketing. Okay. Because of course, the size of the customer is also high, right? When you acquire an account, generally that will be higher revenue or higher monetization account as compared to, let's say, consumers or a B2C market. Another aspect is, in case of B2B, the sales cycle is also generally very long. Okay? Maybe in case of B2C, people might quickly look at the offer, see if the price is fitting, and if they're finding value, they might make the purchase on their own with your product being there, some advertising, and so on and so forth. But in case of B2B, it's a conscious purchase, a business is purchasing. So, yes, Subrat, you're correct that in CAC is going to vary between B2B and B2C, generally higher for B2B industry. Okay. All right, great. So this is our first metric. Now, related to it, let's look at another metric, which is also very intuitive, no complications as such. We call it customer lifetime value. And the idea is very simple. We want to look at uh, what is the amount of money that every customer is going to pay us in their lifetime. Okay. So we define it into, or we calculate it into two parts. Custom value of a customer is basically average sale value of the customer multiplied by the number of purchases that the customer would make over their lifetime. Now, this customer value can be looked at or broadened to customer lifetime value, which is customer value on an average and in a period how many transactions they are making. And if you look at the average customer lifespan, okay, so let's say uh, first part would be, suppose a customer is spending 1,000 rupees in 1 year, then 1,000 becomes the customer value. And suppose the customer is going to generally be there with us for 10 such years. So 1,000 multiplied by 10, 10,000 becomes the customer lifetime value in this case. Okay. Now, interesting thing was that in our case also, when we were, so me and my wife, when we were working on FinTalks, and we were trying to look at these online workshops that we will deliver. So the target that we had taken was, can we kind of clock 1 lakh customers who pay us 10,000 as the customer lifetime value. Okay, so on that direction, we were working and we are still working. So we got around 6,000 rupees as the average lifetime value till now, and we got around 3,000 customers. Okay, so that is where we are. Uh, but I think from the perspective of understanding customer lifetime value and implementing, it is very straightforward, easy, no complications as such, and it can be a very good directional parameter. Now, in also from the perspective of, let's say, big companies or large companies, the tools which are used to calculate customer lifetime value roughly work like this on the left-hand side, which is where 5 steps are mentioned. So average purchase value is what we try to calculate first. which is total revenue in a period divided by the number of purchases in that period. So every transaction is going to be worth step one. Step two, what is the average purchase frequency rate? So number of purchases divided by the number of unique customers who are making the purchases. So on every customer, generally in a period, how many purchases are happening? That is step two. Now, if you multiply step one and step two, then we get the customer value, which is what we saw here. This is customer value. Now, this customer value is where we need to kind of just multiply this with the average lifespan. And that we can look at by sum of customer lifespans divided by the number of customers. So average lifespan multiplied by the customer value will give us customer lifetime value. Most of the big data tools, most of the analytics tool, which actually calculate the customer lifetime value, they perform these 5 steps to give us the result. From the understanding perspective, this is what is happening, which is shown in this right-hand side. Let's say we have a user which went for a free trial, liked the product, and then ended up buying the product, let's say for $100. Then over the lifespan of the customer, before they missed to renew and then churned out, they gave us a revenue of 100 plus 75 plus 75. So let's say $250, and that becomes our lifetime value. Okay? So before the customer has moved away from us, maybe to the competitor, to a new product, or they don't need this product anymore, then in that case, this is the calculation that we are trying to arrive at. Now, in general, what happens is for most of the companies, the customer lifetime value is basically going to vary just like this bell curve. Okay, so we have 20% of the customers which are generally very profitable. These are our loyal customers coming back to us again and again and purchasing things, maybe even referring others. 60% will be profitable customers, but maybe they're not referring others. Okay. We'll have 20% non-profitable customers, or generally across businesses. This is something which is found out. Okay. Now, the question to you guys is, do you think if you are the owner of the business, then would you leave these 20% non-profitable customers, or would you want to retain them? Okay, so I'll just repeat the question. If you are an owner of a business and you find that 20% of your customers are non-profitable, so would you remove them from your focus, or would you try to retain them? Okay. Let's see what majority is saying. Will you let these customers go, or will you keep these customers if these customers are non-profitable as per the lifetime value calculation? Let's see what you guys are suggesting. You can type in the chat. Okay, Subrat is saying we'll still keep them in the radar, but give them low priority. Okay, so Subrat is saying probably I'll give them low priority, but I'll still not lose them. Okay, all right. Anyone else? We'll keep checking customer. All right. Okay, so you will keep on checking these customer. Okay, so let me tell you in our case how did we go about it. So we planned for roughly 2 to 3 pushes. Okay, one push on an email marketing, another push through SMS, another push or a reminder generally to kind of attend another workshop and so on and so forth. If nothing is happening, then this is where actually we stop our marketing budget allocation for these customers. Okay, so what happens is if any cross-sell or upsell activity happens on its own, these customers might become profitable and then we'll be okay with it. Otherwise, in our business, we were okay to let go. Okay? We were uh, trying from our side, can we maybe make them profitable? If not, after a period of time, we let the customers go. Now, some brands take this approach, or some companies take this approach. Some companies, they make a lot of effort to move their non-profitable customers also from non-profitable to becoming profitable, and then try it for very, very profitable customers. Okay. So over here, what companies try to do is something like this based on the customer lifetime value. So we do a segmentation. We understand from our existing customer base on the basis of lifetime value, do we need to treat different customers differently? So this is where we revisit our pricing model. Maybe to those customers which are profitable, we might give them a lucrative offer and make them very profitable. Similarly, those customers where they're non-profitable, we might want to go back, look at maybe creating a new product, look at a different way of extracting revenue and profits, and so on and so forth. So we'll work on pricing. For the very profitable customers, you might want to differentiate them. So you might treat them in a different way, maybe do a different packaging for these very profitable customers, make them feel differentiated, special, and so on and so forth. So generally, this kind of a exercise you will find happening in the retail industry, flights or travel, tourism, even in banking and financial services, and so on and so forth. Depending on the lifetime value, we segment it out, our entire customer base, and then we take segmented actions. Even the allocation of marketing budgets might vary accordingly. Okay. Now, we have looked at two matrices which were talking about on an individual customer, how much is the CAC, how much is the lifetime value. Another thing which is on a company level is revenue. And we all understand revenue. The difference between sales and revenue is sales can be in terms of quantity. Okay. Revenue is when we multiply it by the amount of money that we are making on a per product basis. That is what gives us the total money generated from normal business. Now, the interesting thing in case of revenue is there are two types of revenue which generally people forget to understand. Okay, so over here I'll show you those two types, but before this, sorry, let me take you through this example first. So over here you have two types of revenue: operating revenue and non-operating revenue. So operating revenue is the one which is actually coming from the business that you're doing. Okay, let's say you're selling a product, let's say cars. Okay. So when you sell cars, the revenue that you get from selling cars, this is your operational revenue. Any other revenue, let's say you earned some money by selling cars, you invested in it in some property and you got some rental income. That becomes a non-operating revenue. That is not the key business that you're supposed to do. That is not your key operation. So we combine that as a non-operating revenue. Now on that front, let me show you an example. So can you guys let me know how many banks are there in India? Can you take a guess? How many banks would be there in India, including all public sector, private sector, others? Take a guess. How many different types of banks are there? Okay. Total number. 20 is what Subrat is saying. Okay. Anyone else? 21. So public sector and private sector combined will be close to 2021. But what about other banks? We have uh, small finance banks, we have payment banks, we have agriculture related banks, okay, and so on and so forth. We have foreign banks setting operations in India. So this number actually, roughly what you can remember is close to 250 to 300, in fact, maybe even more. Okay, but let's say 250 to 300 banks are there. 250 is a good number to remember. 250 different banks are operating in India. Okay, that means India is a very big market because every bank would be making some revenue by giving loans, which is their key operation. They will earn interest on top of it. So over here, let me show you some of out of these 250 banks. Some are listed in the stock market, and I think in the last batch, last session, I had asked you how many of you are investing in the stock market. So if you are, then you would know that not all the companies in India are listed in the stock market. There are around 5,000 companies which are listed. We can invest in these 5,000 companies, but this discussion is not about investment. The question is about revenue. Okay? So what you have to tell me is, if you look at the banking sector in India, uh, which bank is the largest bank in India? Take a guess. Which bank is the largest bank in India? Okay, SBI is what Sachin is saying, Subrat as well. great. So we have SBI, which is the largest bank in India, and who will be at the next spot just after SBI, which will be the next biggest one. Sachin is saying ICICI probably. All right, so let's look at this answer. We go to banks over here. The website is screener.in. Okay, this is a good website for understanding any company which is listed. So I'm just keeping the link in the chat. So over here, what we are doing is we are looking at all the banks in India. Okay. Now, when you want to look at the bank, how big it is, generally what happens is we do it using, let's say in stock market parlance, we do it using the market cap. How much is the market value of that company, or in this case, a bank? So the largest bank in India is, as per the valuation, HDFC Bank, followed by ICICI, and then followed by State Bank of India, Kotak Bank, Axis, IndusInd, Bank of Baroda. Okay. Apart from this, PNB, Union Bank, and Canara Bank, they all make up the top 10, the top 10 biggest valued banks in India. But let's look at another part of it. So, which is the revenue part. Okay. So, over here, let me sort it on a basis of, okay, let me put, okay, probably I'll have to log in over here. Just let me see if I can log in. So, let me take you to banks again, and let's look at the revenue part. Okay. So, I'll just cancel all this, return over 6 months, tax. Let me just keep revenue or sales. And now you look at this. Okay. So over here, look at this revenue number. Now, as you guys mentioned, State Bank of India is the largest bank in India. And that is the case on the basis of revenue. The amount of sales or revenue which the company is making, that is where State Bank of India is the biggest, right? They are at 4 lakh crore is the revenue that they make every year, roughly. HDFC Bank is there at close to 2,20,000 crore. That means almost half the size of, just give me 1 minute. All right, sorry. So over here, I was saying that you have uh, HDFC Bank, which is much smaller as compared to State Bank of India. If you look at the revenue per se, but then also from the valuation perspective, HDFC Bank is the biggest. Now, can you guys tell me why is this happening? Why then revenue is the revenue not that important? What is happening over here? Why? How come HDFC Bank is most valuable? Any guesses? What is happening over here? We looked at the revenue, which is important. Revenue basis, State Bank of India is the biggest, but valuation basis, market is valuing HDFC Bank much higher. Okay, very high actually. So can you take a guess? And in that case, would revenue be an important thing for a business to monitor? CLV is high, customer lifetime value is high. Okay, no, partly correct, but still not the right answer. So what is the key, let's say, for any business, what is the most important thing? Is it revenue? Profit, right? So what happens is profit is something which is highest for SBI, oh sorry, HDFC Bank. Let me show you that. And along with that, let me show you another reason. So let's look at HDFC Bank and let's look at State Bank of India. First, I'll show you State Bank of India. Okay, so over here, yeah, net profit. you're correct. So let's go to this piece over here. This profit and loss that you see is on a yearly basis. Okay, so on a yearly basis, revenue means the total money every year that the bank is making. Okay, this is the data for State Bank of India. Now, as we saw, 3,98,000 crore is what they will clock in this year. You can see this revenue data. Now, another thing that you will find interesting in case of State Bank of India is this is fine revenue, out of which they have to pay some interest. There are certain expenses. So on a operational level, for a bank, operation is finance. So financing profit or operational profit is negative for State Bank of India. You will find the same thing in case of ICICI Bank, Axis Bank, uh, except HDFC Bank. Okay. So over here, let's also look at what is happening then. How come the bank is very profitable? Because there's a lot of non-operational revenue. Okay. This other income is those income areas which are coming from other activities of the bank. Okay, so for a bank, the main activity is you give loans and you earn interest. On that, SBI is negative on the profitability. They are recovering money from charges, like when you have late payment charges, check deposit charges, check clearing charges, credit card, debit card, those charges, the extra money, yeah, like you mentioned, this is something which is making this bank profitable. Okay. However, let's look at HDFC Bank now. In case of HDFC Bank, uh, let's look at this piece. This is the only bank that you will find in India, maybe one or two more, uh, where on an operational level, first of all, they're positive. So that means their lending practice is very good. And they're also profitable on an overall level. They don't rely on their non-operational business. Okay. So the point over here was you will find that when you look at revenue as a parameter from real life, sometimes we get fascinated by this revenue parameter. So the key thing to look at is this piece. Is the business making revenue from operating aspects or non-operating aspects? Okay, so this is something which is also important. And therefore, when we create a business model, this is how we go about it. Are we really able to meet the needs of the customer? Have we created value? Because for those, for satisfying those needs, we will get money. That becomes our revenue. If we are getting money from other aspects, then that is something which is non-operational revenue. Okay. Our brand actually is created on the basis of operational revenue. We cannot generally create a brand on non-operating revenue aspects. Uh, so therefore, revenue is important parameter, but profit is the most important thing. Without revenue, we will not have profit. So that is also true. But ideally, we want this revenue should be coming from operational aspects. So that is the key discussion, which is where, let's say, when you look at tools, when you look at companies monitoring revenue, do remember about these points of operational and non-operational aspects. Now, these are some parameters which we discussed were on the uh, financial side. Okay? All were financial related aspects. Now, what we will look at is a parameter which is more from the voice of the customer. Okay? So, first of all, have you guys heard about this metric called as Net Promoter Score, NPS? Okay, Sachin is saying yes. So, Sachin, in which industry? Any? Okay, call center. Okay, nice. So, yes, in call center also, along with the customer satisfaction score, which we'll discuss next, interesting thing is NPS is also getting used in Subrat is saying in service industry as well. So in telecom industry, in my case, I got to learn about NPS Net Promoter Score in the last 2 years. Okay, so actually my key deliverable is NPS itself. So over here, the interesting aspect is Net Promoter Score is from the overall brand or experience perspective. And the idea is we do a survey on a scale of 0 to 10, we ask the customers to rate us, our products, our overall brand experience. And if the customers give a rating between 0 to 6, we call them as detractors. If they give us a rating between 7 and 8, we call them passives. And if they give us a rating which is 9 or 10, we call them promoters. Now, suppose, let's say we work for a company where, just for an example, suppose we have uh, a survey which was done for 100 customers. So we surveyed 100 customers, out of which we noticed that 30 people gave us a detractor rating, okay, between 1 to 6. Let's say we had 10 people who were passives, and we had 60 people which were promoters. Then in this case, NPS will be percentage promoters minus percentage detractors. So 60 minus 30, this is what we call it as a NPS score. So our NPS score will be 30. Now this net promoter score metric can be tracked. Okay, so let's say we do a monthly survey, so we can create a monthly trend of how the net promoter score is changing. If more and more people are talking positive about us, then I think we're doing good. If people are talking negative about us, or they're giving us negative rating, then this is where there is a concern. So this percentage promoters minus percentage detractors on a scale is what we can easily capture. You can do a survey externally, internally, and then look at what is happening with the detractor and promoter base. Now, in terms of, let's say, the implementation on the industry side, there are various ways in which NPS gets implemented. But typically, we look at the overall company NPS. We might also look at NPS promoters percentage separately. How is the promoter percentage for us? We can track separately detractor and passive percentage and see over a period of time how the trend is emerging. So companies generally might look at company NPS score, or they might also start looking at a deep dive, which is NPS promoters, detractors, and passives. Within promoters, are more people giving us 10 rating, or is it 9? On detractor, how is it there? On passives, how is it there? Okay. Based on this, we can have a guideline towards working and improving our products, services, and the support. Okay. Uh, Interesting part also is this graph, which is showing us that NPS score, let's say for any industry, tends to follow a range. Okay, so over here you can see, uh, look at every industry, you will find insurance is an industry, insurance, retail, wherever, like airline as well, there is a huge variation. So either people are very happy or very dissatisfied. But if you look at this industry, parcel delivery, where almost all the parcel delivery services will be equally ranked. Okay, so this is where we have a very small variation. So look at this one. Let me just. So I was talking about this one, which is parcel delivery services. Very small variation. Okay. Similarly, look at investment firms. So almost all the investment firms are like, customers are perceiving they're almost all alike. Maybe there are some which are very, very good. Okay. But look at insurance carriers. Okay, so insurance, there's a huge variation. Okay? Maybe people who are able to get their claims done, they would be very, very happy. And those who are not are on the extreme other side of the traction. Okay? So from that perspective, you can see that NPS is also giving you a picture of not your own industry, but we can compare across industry as well. Okay, so for example, in India, telecom industry, let's say I've generally seen the NPS score is close to 60 to 70. But if you go into UK or US, you will find the telecom players score, NPS score is generally in the 80s, 80 and maybe close to 90s as well. So that is how we can broadly understand about companies and custom perceptions in an industry. Uh, I think what we will do is let's take a small break over here. Let's take a 10-minute break, and then we will carry it forward because there are a lot of metrics that we have discussed. So let's take a 10-minute break over here. We'll catch back. I think it's close to 8:10. So let's catch back at 8:20, and then we take it forward from here. Is that fine? Okay. All right, great. So let's catch back shortly. Uh, all right, everyone. Shall we start with the next part? Coming back. Okay, great. Thanks. So over here, I think we've discussed so far some of the matrices. Like we looked at the revenue aspect. We started off with the CAC and the LTV part. Let's look at some more apart from NPS on the experience side itself. Like I think Sachin was mentioning, in the call center, you will also find matrices like customer satisfaction. And in fact, this is a one which is measured a lot. So a measurement of how satisfied the customers are on a scale, which can be, let's say, very dissatisfied to very satisfied, is a simple measurement which can be surveyed. And over here, generally we can transpose it just like NPS on a particular scale. The scale can be, let's say, from 0 to 100 also. We can have a 0 to 10, whatever it might vary from company to company. But we can define 0 to 50, suppose, is an area where we consider that this needs a lot of improvement. 50 to 70 is generally fair. If people are giving beyond 70, then probably we're doing a good job. 90 above is excellent, and that is how we can craft the CSAT. Now, customer satisfaction is generally done after we have solved some customer's problem. Okay, and this is, or maybe they have used a product or they have used a service. And at the end of that, we ask customers about their experience. Okay? NPS, however, is at a broader level from the brand experience perspective itself. So over here, with respect to CSAT versus NPS, CSAT is on a specific aspect of your business, maybe for one specific product that the customer has used. NPS is looking at overall customer loyalty towards a brand. That is one broad difference with respect to these concepts. From the telecom industry, I can give an example that, let's say, in case of Vodafone Idea, we use both NPS also to look at the overall brand loyalty and CSAT as well on the customer service side. In other companies, for example, airlines generally might be looking at CSAT only. There are both advantages and disadvantages in the case of CSAT versus NPS. What we need to kind of quickly understand is, let's say, in case of CSAT, this is very detailed. Okay, so we can actually look at the CSAT inputs and we can start improving that specific area. It is also very versatile, focused on specific interactions. So actionability is more in case of customer satisfaction scores. The disadvantage is that generally in CSAT, it is found that the response rate is very low. And this makes sense also because if customers are unhappy, then probably they will not be looking forward to, reply to another survey or participate in other exercise with the brand. It measures happiness and not loyalty. So it's not a guarantee that if people are giving you a very high CSAT, they will start referring others for your products and services. Okay. Whereas in case of NPS, this does measure the customer loyalty part. In fact, we're talking about the overall brand experience, not any specific thing. So the problem over here comes is from the actionability perspective. That is where it becomes too broad. But it does helps to identify people who would prefer or who would refer our business to other customers. Indicator of a long-term happiness, and we are basically looking at the overall experience of the brand, not at a very specific construct. So that is the overall aspect with respect to CSAT and NPS. Now, other two parameters that we will also look at is very specific, just like CSAT. For example, a calculated metric is average resolution time, and this short form is ART. What we are looking at is basically whoever is coming with their complaints, queries, maybe requests on the call center, other touch points, we look at the total duration of conversation where the customer's problems are getting resolved. We divide this by the total number of customer conversations, and therefore we are kind of giving a average resolution time. Okay. Related to this is FCR, first contract resolution. And if we are able to solve the customer's problem in the first time when they reach out to us, then that's the best thing. So this metric has evolved further from art. So instead of looking at average time of resolution, why not look at percentage of resolutions which we are able to clear off in the first interaction with the customers itself. So a lot of call centers, contact centers, or chat bots and so on and so forth, their efficiency is getting measured through FCR these days. And this is a metric which is basically telling us how effective our agents, chatbots, and other resources are with respect to dealing with the customer problem. Do they understand the customer problem? Are they able to solve for it? Uh, are they able to do it quick without any hassle to the customer? So from that perspective, these two matrices are used. Uh, if you look at FCR being evolving as the most important call center metric these days, then this is where if FCR is improving, or if you have a better FCR as compared to competitors, then our overall operational cost will be less. We'll have less call time, less agents to measure things, because most of the agents are actually able to efficiently resolve the customer complaints. We will reduce the customers at risk. Probably people will be satisfied. They will stay back. And it improves the overall customer satisfaction as well as the employee satisfaction as well, because they're able to solve for the customer problems. Uh, this might have an impact on the overall NPS as well. So FCR is generally seen trending on the same lines as NPS in certain areas. And uh, probably if people are happy, if their problems are getting resolved, we might get the opportunity to upsell or cross sell. So from that perspective, we look at FCR. The last of the metric that we have from our customer behavior measurement particularly is the CES part. Now, this is slightly a new metric. In fact, in telecom industry, also I have seen that, recently customer effort score is something that people are also trying to survey across companies and industries. Now, this is something which is a mix of both the extreme ends, CSAT on one side and NPS on the other. What we are saying is that did the company made it easier for the customer to get their problem solved, or did we ask from a huge amount of effort from the customer? So how this will be measured is by asking this question: how do you agree with the following statement? The company made it easy for me to solve my problem. Now, this can be on a scale from strongly disagree to strongly agree. Now, have you guys in your own personal experience come across a survey like this on a question which is, do you agree if the company made it easy for me? Okay, Sachin, which industry or company? Subramanya is also saying yes. So any specific brand or industry that you had this question coming from? So in my case, I have got it from Swiggy and Zomato. Okay, that is where I have seen. I mean, one example. Yeah, Zomato is what Sachin is also saying. Okay, so Swiggy and Zomato, from the point of view of food delivery. Okay, Subramania is also saying in case of pharma, interesting. So in pharma also, they are looking at this piece. From pharma as an example, even certain hospitals. Okay, this hospitals also you might find customer effort score being used. For example, in my case recently in Mumbai, we have Hiran Nani Hospital. So there, I remember there was one question in the survey: uh, how easy was it to get the entire payments processed? Okay, so there were two options. If you're claiming a health insurance, then there was a different process. If you're not claiming a health insurance or a cashless process, then there was a different process. So in both the cases, they asked customers uh, how easy was it for them. Okay. Sachin also saying call center takes the survey after each call get ends. Okay, yeah, sure. So, but Sachin, are they taking uh, on this question, or they're taking on CSAT? That might be the difference. Okay, some companies are okay. CSAT is what they're taking. Okay, yeah. So call center generally might be kind of there on CSAT. This is where a third party survey is generally done. Okay. So over here, what we've discussed is the various kinds of matrices. I'll just quickly recall them in the chat. So we started off with CAC. we discussed about CLV, then we went to revenue. Uh, then we started looking at the NPS score and CSAT. Some companies also look at ARD and FCR. And the last one that we saw was customer effort score. So you can see that, while we looked at the data of who are the customers, what are they doing, why are they doing what they're doing, how they're doing, these may culminate into these kind of matrices, which is what from the MDM method particularly we can try to study. Now, coming to, let's say we have discussed about the metrics, we have discussed about the data part, but then what about the method? How will we use this information? So what we do is we have certain specific business problems that we try to solve for. And those business problems is what you will find over here. We call them as methods. Okay, so there are certain methods which will help us to classify uh, people or customers into various segments or categories. Then there are certain methods which will help us to correlate between data and understand uh, why a particular thing is happening, what was the cause, what is the effect, uh, did a particular variable drive the customer to take a particular action. For example, you launched a discount and therefore people are buying. So correlation is a method that we use to extract information from customer behavior. Then we create charts to look at anomalies and spikes. For example, on social media, uh, I might be monitoring the number of followers, and suddenly the number of followers are spiking. That means maybe there is some positive getting viral, or maybe some influencer or a celebrity started talking about us. So that those kind of spikes, anomalies, we can also try to look at. Okay, yeah. Subrat is also saying how a company selects metric to use and integrate uh, with the feedback policy. So yeah. So over here, Subrat, what is generally seen is there is no standard method. Okay, that let's say if I'm in a particular company or a particular industry, these matrices will be used. But again, what is also seen is that there are certain matrices which most of the companies are using. For example, customer satisfaction. Similarly, when we discussed about revenue, uh, these are the two matrices which you will find everywhere. If you have a high call center effort, then this is where companies are using FCR also these days and ART. Okay. So if your company is not having a huge call center or a back office, then you will not use these matrices. NPS particularly is important when you are operating at a scale, huge number of customers, B2C market, and the competition is intense. This is where companies generally look at NPS. Customer acquisition cost is another metric which generally for B2C market you would want to monitor. In B2B, if we look at all the matrices so far, CLV is one metric which is used very frequently in the B2B industry. So what happens is we would want to understand which are my premium accounts, which are my class. So we call it class A, class B, class C accounts. Class A is where there is a lot of potential for new business. Class B is the mid-level account. Class C is probably small accounts. So that is how we use the CLV over there. Okay. Uh, is that good to go, Subrat? Any further question? I hope I answered your part. Okay, great. So let's also look at few other methods. Another interesting method is, yeah, you're welcome. So another interesting method is clustering. So clustering is where there are a lot of algorithms, present in the industry. For example, one algorithm that you can probably Google about is called as K-means. K-means algorithm is is kind of run to uh, see from the entire customer base which customers are like each other, and then bucket them into certain segments based on their buying behavior, based on their purchases, and so on and so forth. So there are various algorithms which help us to group customers together. Similar customers should be grouped together. And then regression is something which is, let's say in case of forecasting, you might want to forecast this year we have sold this much of products. Next year, if we kind of look at the economic situation, look at the products and so on and so forth, how would my revenue change? How would my sales vary? So those relationships is what we study on the basis of regression. So these are the various methods. Now, of course, we are not going to look at all the methods in the sessions. Some methods are important. So that is what we will cover up over here in the sessions itself. And for that, one of the important thing that we will try to maybe do a live demo and check is segmentation. Okay, so one method that you should be confident about is how can you segment your existing customer base? And for this, I need to take you back to the basics. And this is where probably in the other sessions in your future, in your earlier sessions on marketing or marketing analytics or other areas of business, you would have come across this term called as segmentation. The idea over here is that we cannot target all the customers. We define a segment, and this segment can be defined on the basis of various parameters: geographic, demographic, psychographics, or behavioral. So let's say on the basis of location, I can divide, let's say broadly, India between urban and rural, metro, tier 1, tier 2. So that ways we can define geographic segmentation, and we can use it to create our marketing efforts. Similarly, we can have, in addition to geography, we can look at demographics: age of my customer, gender, income level, and so on and so forth. Psychographic is basically the uh, lifestyle, interests, let's say, or the needs of the customers itself on a personal level. So over here, these psychographic segmentations are also done. For example, some brands like Mintra would want to target people who are frequent shoppers or frequent online shoppers. Okay. Uh, Similarly, behavioral is a part with respect to certain repeat actions that people take. Okay, so that let's say some people have a tendency to buy online. Some people might look at things online but then buy offline. Others might visit a website, explore it, do the competition survey, and then probably purchase something. Okay, so there are various behaviors that we exhibit, and using or combining all these segmentation criterias, we can segment our customer base and then try to look at those customer segments which are very profitable. Okay, of segmentation itself will be to create a segmented marketing approach. And for a marketing analytics person, we would want to understand which segment is the most profitable, which segment is very satisfied, which segment is unhappy, which segment is uh, having the lowest cost of acquisition, and so on and so forth. This applies to both B2C and B2B market. Now, these segmentation criterias, the four which you can see on this slide, these are the most used ones. But there are a few other segmentation criterias also which you should be aware about, which is SEC classification and generation-based segmentation. So look at this one. Uh, I think all of us remember that, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is something which generally suggests that, with uh, the way our life progresses from one age to another, our needs keep on changing. Okay. So the concept of segmentation comes in over here that, at any point of time in our life, we are bothered about one or two set of primary needs. These are the various five uh, of those sets. Let's say initially when we start our life, we're concerned about the physiological and safety needs. If these are taken care of, then we move toward love and belonging. If this is taken care of, we are concerned about esteem. If everything is good to go, then we try to give back to society. So this is where we start thinking about self-actualization. Now, segmentation is therefore done so that we can actually target people who are in need of something specific. Okay. So this is where we have the concept of segmentation. Now, the four types of segmentation that we saw earlier, we will add one more type over here to those segmentation criteria, which is segmenting people by generations. Okay. Now, generation-based segmentation can be on the basis of year of birth itself. Now, what you see over here is a US representation. So, in India, if you're born in 90s, then you belong to generation Z. If you're born in 80s, you are belonging to generation Y. If you're born in 70s, then you are generation X. Before that, you are generation baby boomer. Now, can you guys let me know your generation that you belong to based on your year of birth. Okay, Sachin is Y. In my case also, I'm Y, born in 80s. Let's see for others. Okay, I think all of us are generation Y, it seems. Okay, great. So now why I ask this question is because as a let's say as a generation, we have certain common experiences. For example, do you guys remember during our summer time we used to read comics? Any comic character that comes to your mind? I think it used to be a famous uh, summertime experience. Chacha Chaudhary, Pinky, many other things. Nagaraj, Dinga. Okay, all right. So over here, do you guys also remember about Orkut? Orkut used to be there before Facebook. Uh, yes, right. We used to write scrapbook, testimonials, and in fact, I can also uh, talk about video games. Like if you remember, Mario or Contra used to be there. Uh, there were other games which I'm not able to. Yeah, coin video games is something that all of us would have played. Ludo used to be popular among the family, and so on and so forth. Now, these experiences is something that all of us have lived together, and therefore, when we do marketing, you will find that sometimes it is also very helpful to target people by generation itself, because we share common beliefs, we share common experiences, and that might be very different from the previous generation. For example, Generation X in India is generally considered to be the most hardworking generation. They have provided a platform to Generation Y, and then Generation Y is, of course, doing it for Generation Z. But over here, with least number of resources, Generation X was where they were seeing the transition. In our case, in Generation Y, we have seen luckily both the worlds, without internet and beyond internet. So we have been very lucky in that sense. And therefore, from the marketing point of view, if you belong to a particular generation, then you will generally find it easier to do marketing for that generation customers itself. So this is an important segmentation criteria. Another one is segmenting people in case of a global marketing context. Okay, so let's say if I want to understand how Indians are different from people in Pakistan, okay, as a market, how Pakistan is different from India, how Pakistan is different from UK, how India is different from Bangladesh, how India is different from China. In that case, also there is another segmentation that we do. We call it SEC, or socio-economic classification. So if I'm working for a global marketing role and I want to understand how one particular country and its market is different as compared to other country, then we look at SEC classification. And this is the way it is done in India. We look at the education of the chief earner of a family. So let's say instead of looking at individual, we look at households. In the household, whoever is the chief earner of the family, we look at their education and their occupation. Uh, the education can be from illiterate to, let's say, a postgraduate professional, and occupation can be from being an unskilled worker to, let's say, a senior manager or a senior executive. Now, what we do is we classify each household in India among categories from A1 to E2. Generally, those categories where you have a postgraduate as the head of the family, chief under of the family, and then working in a senior role on the corporate side, these are A1 households. These A1 households are those which is where the number of consumer durables is generally higher. For example, you will have a washing machine, an AC, maybe two vehicles, a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler, and so on and so forth. So we classify them as the most affluent households, A1. Then comes A2, and the lowest rung is E2. Now, what has happened is with the economic transition that is going on in India, we have had a lot of people move from E2, E1 to D and C. Similarly, B from C, people have moved to B2 and B1. Of course, at this point of time, also A1, A2 would be like 2 to 3% of the entire Indian population. Okay. Majority are B1, B2, and then C and D. So that is how, let's say, the Indian demography is looking like. Now, based on this, the requirements of Indian population will be different as compared to, let's say, the population in UK, US, China, Brazil, Singapore, and so on and so forth. So we can study these socio-economic classifications also, especially if you are working on behalf of a global brand uh, and you want to enter the Indian market, then this is what you would look at for segmentation. So along with combining other segmentation criteria, this might also be important. Okay. Now, once we have done the segmentation, then of course we need to reach out to these people. So for that uh, 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 as well, defining segment becomes important because then we can decide, should I go for broad targeting? Should I go for very specific targeting? Okay. So broad targeting would be, I will create, let's say, a ad on television. On television, most people will see, maybe some will take, some will remember, some will convert, and so on and so forth. So this becomes broad targeting. But the problem with broad targeting will be, we will need higher budgets. So this is a spray and pray approach is what we call it. So you are spraying everywhere, maybe praying that some people might convert. Okay. Similarly, if you go very specific, audience based or questions targeting. So here, let's say people who are asking on Google search engine about a question like how uh, electric vehicles work, or let's say more specific, I want to buy an electric vehicle, which brand is the best? Then this is where we can target people on digital marketing, and that becomes very specific. It can be keyword targeting, audience targeting, or questions targeting. And therefore, by defining the segment, we are also kind of defining the approach that we will take to reach out to these people. We call it targeting. Now, once we're done with the, let's say we have started defining the segment, we have tried reaching out to the people through our communication channels or the media, uh, there is certain identity which starts building up. Okay? Now, this is a conscious identity that the brand wants to build uh, for the target segment that we have chosen. And generally, your identity for the brand will be built on the basis of functional value, symbolic value, and experiential value. That is how a brand identity gets created. Now, there are certain brands which might just focus on functional. There are others which might focus on symbolic, even others on experiential. Some might do a combination or a combination of all three. Now, can you think of a brand which is a combination of all three aspects, a global brand or an Indian brand, where you feel functionally also it is good, symbolic also it is good, and experiential as well? You find that this is a good brand. Any brand identity that comes to your mind, which is okay, Tata is a good one. Okay, all right. I guess two people are saying Tata. Any other brand? Functionally also good. Okay. So Subrat is saying also Apple, fair enough. So let's say we can put Apple also over here. They do have functional experiential aspects along with symbolic aspect. Any company which is purely on functional, not much of symbolic or experiential aspect, purely because it is functionally good, people buy that. Any brand which has created its identity entirely on the functional aspect. Think of a brand, maybe B2C market or a B2B market, any product that you are using in your life, which you're using because the functional aspect is very good. You don't, it doesn't matter whether the symbolic or experiential aspect is there or not. Okay, Xerox is a good example. Uh, Along with that, you will find that even in airlines, you might come across just the functional aspects is what people bother about. Okay. Yeah, Indigo is a great example on that front. Even let me ask you, how would you classify Parle G? Parle G is a brand which is very prominent. So how would you, Parle G is also quite, I mean, there is no symbolic as such around it. Experiential also, I would not say that too much experiential focus, but functional, somehow that is fulfilled quite well by Parle G. Okay? Can we have a brand which is functionally not good, but experiential and symbolic, or maybe only experiential or only symbolic is there, therefore people are buying it? Any brand that you can think about yourself? You were buying it just because maybe it is symbolic wise it is good or experience is good, but functional not that great. Any brand that comes to your mind, which we might be buying because of a good experience or symbolically it is good. Okay. And it is just not about us. In general, what people are buying. Okay. Amazon is what Subramanya is saying. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay. So people are going to Amazon. Maybe functionally it is at par with others. In my case, yeah, symbolically I don't go to Amazon. Experience wise, probably I'll consider it. Functional, yeah, maybe on and off in case of Amazon. Uh, in case of experience, probably uh, even the hotel industry. Okay, this is where you can find some examples where a lot of hotels might be about more about the experience part. Uh, even food aspects as well. Some food items that you get, let's say, especially fast food and probably the roadside food that we enjoy in India, uh, it's more to do sometimes with the experience rather than the functional or the symbolic aspect. PVR is also a lot about experience actually, and I think it is slightly more, slightly maybe a mix of both experiential and symbolic. But yes, experience is slightly more. Okay, but anyways, I think over here from the positioning point of view, the point is that our identity can be a combination of all three aspects, or maybe one aspect which dominates, while the other two are relatively uh, latent. uh, on that note, I think what I'll kind of take it forward from here is we will do a demo. We'll try to do segmentation for some database. I'll show you the database and then we'll try to kind of take it forward. Now, what I'll do is first I'll explain you about this concept of RFM segmentation, one of the methods which is a part of your curriculum. It is called as recency, frequency, and monetary segmentation. So over here, let me just quickly make you understand about the RFM metrics, and then I'll set up the let's say demo. We'll take a break for 5 minutes. Meanwhile, I'll set up the demo and then I'll take you forward. But first of all, quickly mentioning about RFM. So it's a very simple, intuitive method. These days, it is being implemented by big data models backed by machine learning and artificial intelligence, which is used to classify your entire customer base in real time or maybe at a particular frequency based on these three matrices: the recency of purchases or transactions, frequency of transactions, and monetary value of the transactions. Okay, so over here, if you're especially in a B2C business, or specifically B2C e-commerce, you will find that we can look at the recency of your transaction. How fresh is your transaction as a customer? Okay, have you recently purchased from us? This is something which is very valuable to us, because if you're recently purchasing, that means you're indicating that you are interested in our uh, products and services. If your experience keeps on going good, then probably you'll keep on buying again and again. Frequency means over a particular time period, how many times you are purchasing. So the more is better. If you purchase more and more from a particular brand, particular platform, then it signals that you are liking it, uh, or you have a preference for it. Monetary is, of course, the value that we are paying. And this is the most important thing. If the monetary value of a customer for their transaction is high, that means there's a lot of trust, there's a lot of value which we are able to exchange, and then only people are paying more money. Now, if we combine all these three matrices together, RFM, then we kind of define this as a method through which we can segment our entire customer base. For example, on the right-hand side, you can see we have classified people or segmented people on a recency score. And then on the vertical axis, we are looking at frequency and monetary combined. So we have, let's say, some customers where the recency score is highest, along with frequency and monetary score very high as well. So loyal customers and champions, these are very important customers. We cannot afford to lose them. Okay. These are the customers which we will do anything, maybe design a loyalty program, work on retention of these customers. We have some customers where the recency score is kind of there on the lower side, Frequency and monetary score is also low. These customers are about to sleep. That means we are able to, maybe we will be losing them, or we need to, these customers are at risk. We need to kind of do something about them. Similarly, there are some certain customers which is there in the middle. They need some attention. They can be potential great customers. So we need to do something about them. Maybe design a new product. Maybe do some differentiation. Maybe create a specific campaign for them, and so on and so forth. Okay. So over here, I think we will do a demo. We will take a database. I'll show you the database from the telecom industry itself. And we will do this demo in an Excel file. But there are other tools, big data tools as well, where this same exercise can be implemented. Okay, so I'll show it to you in an Excel file because it will be easy to pick up the concepts and it will be quicker as well. So let me set this up. Let's catch back in 5 minutes after the break, and then we will take it forward from the live demo perspective. All right, let's catch back in 5 minutes. All right, everyone. I think we are all set. Let's go through this demo. Uh, shall we start? Okay, great. So we'll go through it step by step. Let me first explain you about what we are going to do. So we are going to look at what is RFM segmentation. How can we interpret it and perform RFM analysis? Now here we are going to do it in Excel. But let's say if you guys know Python, R, or tools like NIME, SAS, SPSS, then you will find that you can use these tools to segment any database on the basis of RFM values. Our approach is also like, as an analytics person, we are just working like doctors. We are using data to make decisions. So for that, let's look at the data itself first. And from that, we will have certain questions. So let me first show you this piece, okay? So we have the data about serial number, which is just to look at the count of the customers. We have the customer unique number, which is their mobile number. We have some demographic information like gender, resident code, whether the person is married or not, whether their Aadhaar KYC is complete or not. We are also looking at their last recharge date. Now, this is an important one because this is talking to us about the recency, which is we are able to figure out when did this customer last did a recharge with us. Okay? So this talks about the recency of a transaction. We also have how many transactions have been made over a particular time period. So basically, this is for us the frequency. Now we will look at for what time period are we looking at the data. So we'll calculate it now. Then sale value of these transactions. So on an average, what is the sale value? This becomes the monetary component. And higher the value, better it is for us, then those customers are better off. So these three values are basically the columns which is going to help us with recency, frequency, and monetary aspect. And in order to do that, let's first answer some very basic questions, which is in this customer base, what is the total number of customers? So let's calculate it. So we do a very simple function, count function, and we go down to the data. We calculate and count the numbers. Okay. So over here, we have a count of 75 customers found in this particular database. Uh, so for these 75 customers, we need to segment on the basis of RFM values. Okay. Now let's see what time period we are looking at the data. So let's look at the minimum function, and we do this on a last recharge date basis. So over here, we will get what is the oldest date, which is 31st May 2018. So we have the data from 2018. And let's use the max function to look at the latest date, which is there over here in this. So we have the data from 2018 till 5th June 2023. That means 5 years of data is roughly there. And we have the data for 75 customers. Okay. Now over here, there are two steps that we can take on the basis of this. For the third question, which is how will we do the RFM segmentation? So there are two steps. One is we do a ranking. Okay, we will do ranking of these customers on the basis of recency, frequency, and monetary individually. Then we have the second process, which is called as RFM scoring. Okay, so we'll do a scored on the basis of recency, frequency, and monetary, and then we will club them up to calculate a RFM score. Okay, so over here, let's go through this one by one. First, let's do a ranking. So what happens is over here, we have the last recharge date. For the recency rank, we will use a function called as rank. Okay. So rank function, we want the rank of each customer's recency date amongst all the customers which are there. Okay. So over here, amongst all the customers, sorry, I think I misplaced a comma. Now, we want to give each customer on the basis of this particular recharge rate rank. So let's say this customer who has got 23rd March 2023 as the recent transaction date is getting a rank of 39. Okay. Now I need to place the dollar signs so that we fix the range. And now let's do it for all the customers. Okay. Now, in order to understand what is the meaning of this rank, let's look at from largest to smallest. So let's look at a customer who has got the highest rank. 75 rank is given to customer who has got 5th June 2023, the most recent transaction. Okay. So we are giving high value to that customer who has made the most recent purchase, which makes sense. Higher the recency, better it is for us. And we have given the lowest rank or one rank over here to the customer, which is giving us uh, the oldest transaction date. After 31st May 2018, this customer with this mobile number has not made a transaction or a recharge with us. Okay, so this customer is something probably which might end up losing. Now we have done the R rank. On the same way, we will do a frequency rank. So here I'll need to select frequency column, and along with that, maybe I'll do the monetary rank as well. So I'll select for sale value. And now we have an idea of frequency rank, monetary rank, and R rank. So we are done with the ranking part of all the customers on the basis of recency, frequency, and monetary individual. But over here, right, we are just given a rank. We need to combine these ranks and come out with segments, which is where we have the next exercise, which is called as RFM scoring. Now, before I go to RFM scoring, just checking with you, are we all clear up till so far? Are we all good to go? Any questions or queries so far? Good with number of customers, time period, and ranking. Okay, yeah. Okay, so let's look at the next part, RFM scoring. So how do we do this is, first of all, let's define a few things, which is number of segments we want to create. So let's say I want to create 5 segments. And that means if I look at our total number of customers, which is 75, I want to divide them into 5 segments roughly. And I'm aiming for 15 customers per segment. Okay. So what we will do is up till the rank or a score, which is 15, RFM score 15, we will classify them under segment 1. Okay. Up to, let's say, 30, we will classify them under segment 2. Okay. Similarly, we'll kind of create these 5 segments. And I can define these segments as up to 45 and above 30, we will classify here 60, and this is above 60 till 75, we will classify them as segment 5. Now, how do we do this is basically on the basis of VLOOKUP function, which is where we need to define some tags. Okay, so we define, let's say for VLOOKUP, all the people who will be there between or below 16, we will classify them as segment 1 and starting with number 1 itself. Okay, so over here, similarly, 31, 46, these are bounds, and all other people who are above 61, we will classify them under the next group, which is segment number 5. Okay, so that is the broad, let's say, bounds that we have created. Now, all the people which will be between 1 to 15 is what we will bring in segment 1. So that is how we are going to go about creating the segmentation. Just give me 1 minute. Yeah, sorry. So over here, now let's go to our VLOOKUP function. So for our score, first of all, let's give up. Let's look at this rank. Sorry, I think missed to place the equal to sign. So we look up this particular rank in our table. And this is where we will give this particular person particular rank, which is, let's classify them as segment, which is column number 2. Okay. So you can see that, we are classifying them into various segments. Now, instead of this writing segment 1, 2, and 3, let me just write 4, 5. It will be easier than to mathematically calculate them. Uh, Let me do it also for F and M. So over here, we're looking at F rank, and then we're looking at the M rank. The only thing which is a mistake is putting the dollar sign. So let me put that up over here. So we are looking at up in the table, and then we are defining a rank. We can define it for all the customers. And then you will see that what we have done right now is basically we are used all the ranks to then segment on the basis of R, F, M, N score together uh, on an individual basis first in a score among 1 to 5. Now, those customers which have the highest R score, F score, and M score, we can multiply them together and come up with the RFM score. That is one way. Another way is to use an average function. So here, the last column that you see is automatically defined. So here, average is the formula, average of this rank on the RFM basis. Let's sort it out on the basis of this. Okay. So I'm sorting it out. Now we see over here that the customer, which is the highest rated customer, is having a R score of 5, F score of 5 as well, M score of 3, and this is looking like a very profitable customer for us. Okay. Now we can define this customer as a, or maybe all those people who have given us a very good number, let's say 4 points till 4.7, we can define them as segment 1 of high value customers. These customers are very important for us. We don't want to lose them. Similarly, we can have another set of customers, which we can define as our segment 2, which is a set of premium customers. Maybe they're not the highest value customers, but they are still very important for us. Now, this is where we can define a marketing campaign, which is we would work on upselling strategy. We would work on product customizations and try to see if we can extract more value from these customers so that they become high value for us. Okay. We can go down on the RFM basis and we can define another segment, which is where probably we have customers which are good, maybe profitable, but we can cross sell to them. For example, when you go to Amazon, you will find that when you purchase something, you also get a recommended product section, which is where generally accessories, let's say you're buying a laptop, some accessories for the laptops are also sold to you. So that is like cross selling. We have these cross-sell customers which will help us to increase the value. And then we have a lot of customers which are giving us very low rating. This is our customers which are at risk. We might lose them. So this is where we can define a retention strategy. Now, here I have done this exercise on a scale of 75 customers. Okay. What if we have customers which have high recency factor, low frequency factor, and low monetization factor? So over here, Subrat, what happens is this is taken care of by doing weightages. Okay. So in real life, when we implement, recency is given slightly lower weightage. We give slightly higher weightage to monetary and slightly higher or a modest weightage to the frequency factor. Another thing is we have taken an average, like Subramania mentioned, we have taken an average. So all the three factors are getting accounted for. So even if a customer is having high recency, but the low frequency and low monetization factor will help us to calculate, keep this customer still in the lower bucket. Okay. Uh, to take care of a problem that new customers which have just come to us, we're not considering them as churn customers. This is where we bring in the weightages. Okay. So give a low weightage to the recency and then you will be able to take care of that. Okay. So weighted moving average is what companies are using on the RFM part in real time to understand about uh, but only concern if customer is high monetary, but regular purchase frequency is year. Yeah. So this is where the model, RFM model actually finds it difficult to work. So whenever you work in an industry where transactions are infrequent, let's say once in a year, like a B2B business, this is where we don't work on RFM model. Okay, so RFM model particularly works in B2C markets uh, where generally multiple transactions are being made. So for example, if you're working in an e-commerce industry, for example, Amazon, Flipkart, uh, or if you're working in FMCG sector, there you will find RFM is more widely used. But if you are working in a B2B company, then or a scenario, then this is where they go more on the CLV part. Okay. So so RFM over here has its own advantages and disadvantages. If you're working in an industry where you can get the RFM data and you have more data or the customer behavior, which is uh, in sync with the RFM method, then this is where we use RFM. So you will find that not every industry is using RFM. Okay. But I think what you can see from here is it's a simple method. You can simply, apply it, keep it intuitive, and then create your marketing campaigns on the basis of this. So from that perspective, RFM is a most widely used method. And over here, uh, what we will do is, I think this is where we will stop for our session today. I had the topic of customer churn concept and strategies, but I think I don't want to rush through it. We will take it up afresh in the next part. I think we have discussed a lot from the metrics, data, and this demo perspective. So if you guys have any questions or queries, we can take it up right now. But otherwise, we catch up in our session tomorrow morning. We'll first go through the churn concept and strategies. That is where we action on the basis of RFM defined segments. And then we take it towards the product and pricing related discussion. Okay. So we still not, okay, you have not received the credentials for the simulation. All right. So then have you guys written a mail to Narsimanji or Upgrad? Okay, Upgrad is delaying it. Okay. What I'll do is, at least from my side, I'll just write a mail so that I inform them that, people have to start the simulation. We have done a briefing round. And I think it is important that you guys get your login credentials. Okay. So I'll just write a mail from my side. Let's see if the needle moves. If not, then let's plan up further. Okay. All right, guys, thank you for joining in. We will take it further from here in our next session. Thank you once again for joining in and take care. Have a nice time. Thank you. Bye. Good night.